in case you do not understand any concept, this is not very difficult. It is just about understanding the concepts, and many of the things you must be knowing beforehand
Yeah,
only.
sure.
So in case you
Okay.
find something that you think you know very well, we can skip that topic. Otherwise, and in case you have any doubt, just stop me and we can discuss it
So,
again. Okay. So the domain one is security and risk management. How to secure any organization, and what should be the risk management approaches, how the risk management should be done in an organization, okay, and what are the different components to that. So we will see what are the concepts of the risk, how risk management is implemented, business continuity, disaster recovery planning, the concept of CIA, and all those things we are going to cover. Security, the three pillars of security is CIA. These are the three fundamentals on which the entire security is based upon. Okay. Let me open. Okay, so you see here only. So as this diagram shows, CIA stands for confidentiality, okay, integrity, and availability. Do you have a, like a basic understanding what these terms stands for in layman
yeah.
terms? And so, what is your understanding about CIA, and what is the difference between these three terms? And these three pillars, we have different technologies, different products which supports these three features in the security domain. For integrity, we have things called hashing, what hashing algorithms
Mm,
are used so that we can make sure the data has not been tampered with. For availability, we will have redundancy methods. For confidentiality, we'll have access control systems, which will make sure who has
right.
access to the data, what level of access they have, what assets they can access to, what are their needs to know basis. So these are three
So,
simple terms, CIA, on which the entire security is based upon, and we have to make sure that we all these three triads, they are tight packed, and we have all the products that are in place to make sure that CIA is not tampered with. Okay. Now, the topic of governance. What do we mean by governance? It is again a simple English terminology. Uh, and why governance is required. So if you take an example of any state, any office, any country, so there is a government who is running it. Why we need someone to run, and especially PPT, people, process, and technology. Why we need someone to run these three aspects for effective management. For an example, let's suppose this is just to underline the importance of governance. And for a technical person, it will be they will not think from this perspective, or they will not go so deep to ponder about this thought. But for the people who are in infosec, this is their bread and butter. So let's suppose if I go out today to purchase something, if I have to travel 5 kilometers, and in my city, the all the red lights stop working, what will happen? It will be a total chaos. I'll not be able to
yeah.
reach to the place where I want to reach in time, and there will be so many consequences.
Yeah.
So for the proper traffic management, we have the traffic lights there outside so that people can follow the rules and they can reach wherever they want to reach in time. So that is the importance of governance, and have these PPTs, people, process, and technology in place so that we know what we need to refer, what we need to do in certain situations. So we'll discuss due care, due diligence, what are the control framework later on. Okay.
Mm,
This is just the topic names.
mm,
So
mm,
for now, the concept of CIA and what governance is and how governance is classified. So governance is classified into corporate governance, and in corporate governance, we have IT governance and infosec governance, means information technology, the people who are part of the technology. Let's suppose you must have seen
mm,
in our IT world, we have teams who are working on firewalls, routers, switches, like you're working on
mm,
CrowdStrike. I'm sorry, you're working on
yeah. Mm,
yeah, ma'am. So, and we have the counterparts, InfoSec people. Let's suppose if I want to open a port on a firewall, I will raise a change request, and the InfoSec team will make sure they will see that whether, as per the policy, we are allowed to open this port or not. If I am allowing someone, as a technical person, I say, okay, to resolve this issue, let me open this particular port number XYZ. Okay.
mm,
But the infosec people will come in place and they'll say, no, our policy suggests that we cannot use FTP, for example, we can only use SFTP. It's a secure, it
Mm.
is more secure method for the file transfer. So these two, there are two different divisions. One is IT governance and one is infosec governance. Okay. So what policy basically stands for, because we will hear these terms a lot, governance and this is all about policy. Okay. And what, in short, what policy is, if anybody asks what policy is, it is the management intention, vision, goal of the top level management. Okay.
Right.
Executive level management. So policy defines their vision and mission simply. Okay. And the
Yeah.
triads are CIA. So we'll move forward. We have seen what CIA is. Now, simple
Mm.
terminologies that we'll see again and again. Access control means we have controls are the security measures. Okay. So
Yeah.
access security measures, how we will access something, we will have certain controls in place for them to have a check so that we can ensure that only authorized people are allowed to access the resource. Least privilege will tell me that what level of access I have, what level of privilege I have. Let's suppose if I log in into a router or if I log in into a Linux machine. Okay. So here my privilege level will define how much, what commands I can run on this particular device or on the Linux when I log in. What is the default access when we log into a Linux
Mm.
terminal? So that is the concept of the least privilege, means have only that much access that is required for you, and it
Mm.
is always assigned to a subject. Subject is the one who access the resource. Okay. So
Mm.
you and I are the subjects, and
Right.
object is a file or a data or a piece of information that I want to
Mm.
act. Need to know assigned to a object, and least privilege is assigned to a subject. Object, we have already discussed what it is, like a file or data or any information. Means, let's suppose I am a doctor. Okay. And I am paneled into the emergency shift today. I have access to all the records of the patients that are there in the emergency, but will I go and should I go and check all the files and start digging into them? No, I will only
No.
check the file for a patient that I am attending to. That is my need to know. What, even though I have
Mm.
access, but it should not be my concern that I start looking into other things. Okay. So that is the concept of need to know. Just access what you are required to access. Based on need to know, we give access to people. So whatever I have the need to access, based on my requirement, the access will be provided to me. So need to know and least privilege, which is more granular in nature. Need to know is more granular in nature. It says that even if you have access, but you should not look into the resources that you are not required to look. Okay.
Mm.
So
Right.
keywords discussed is CIA. I have already discussed
Yeah.
in any organization, we have a corporate governance, which is further divided into IT governance and InfoSec governance. And I think you have a basic idea what the InfoSec team does and what the IT governance
Mm.
team does. Okay. And
Yeah.
InfoSec people basically takes care of all the policies, procedures. Let's suppose I join a new organization. Okay. Whatever steps I will take when I join, starting from my onboarding, what all trainings I will do, how my access will be created, all the trainings that we do when we join any new organization, ethics training or trainings related to sexual harassments, all those things. So they are taken care by the infosec team. Okay. When we talk about governance, it is classified. So first we'll see what the teams are. Like we have a IT team, we have an infosec team, we have a general management team. Now I will divide the governance based on what type of governance we are doing. Like external governance is the one. For example, we have regulations called HIPAA, PCI DSS, FDPR. On the organization level, I will have the governance in place where my governance policies will be based on what my top level management says, what is their vision, what is their mission. InfoSec
Mm.
governance is about the security policies. Whenever we are classifying all these things and we talk about security, what is our ultimate goal? Can we, if I, with all the money that I spend to secure my environment and have all the latest technologies, all the devices in place, can I eliminate the risk? So always, whatever I do, whatever technologies are present today, even if I do everything, I cannot say that I have eliminated the risk. The goal is to minimize the risk to an
Minimize.
acceptable level. Now, who will
Right.
define what the acceptable level is? That we'll discuss later. But our goal as a consultant, as a professional, is to have
Mm.
the policies in place and suggest for the things that can reduce the risk to an acceptable level. GRC, you must have heard this term a lot. GRC
Mm.
stands for
Yeah, a lot.
Governance, Risk,
Yeah.
and Compliance. And InfoSec people are the GRC people. The governance we have just discussed. When we talk about GRC, first always is the governance. Okay, because governance, my management, top level management will tell me, okay, what is my vision, what are my ethics, how I am going to run this organization. So that comes first. Based on that, I will start making my risk management policies, risk approaches, all those policies, disaster
Mm.
recovery, business continuity plan. That will come later. But first, governance will be there. Then we will have risk management, and then we will have compliance. Compliance means to abide by something. It can be
Mm.
the internal rules and regulation that I need to abide by. It can be the external government rules that we need to follow. Okay, so you must be already aware of all these things called GDPR and uh,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
these are the external regulations that we have to follow anyhow. All the organizations need to follow. So government, under government governance, we have corporate management, policy management, strategies, procedures, all those things. When we talk about risk management, we will identify what the risk is, how we will do the risk identification and all those things. We'll discuss all these things as we go on further. So
Mm.
for now, risk, under risk, we talk about risk
Mm.
identification. Until and unless I do not know what is the threat, how
Mm.
will I make any defense against it? So risk
Mm.
identification, then I will analyze, then I'll evaluate and manage. Then the compliance, compliance, as I told you, internal compliance, whatever rules we have set for ourselves, and the external regulatory bodies that we need to abide by. So comply with the law and the regulatory bodies and the internal organization policies and rules is the compliance. For running any organization, there are two approaches, top-down approach and bottom-up approach. Have you heard these terms? So what do you think? Which approach is more effective to run any organization?
Top down is the one.
Yeah,
The Yeah, because the
top.
senior management should be aware of what's happening and everything rather
Yes,
than
exactly,
staff
exactly.
stealing it. Yeah.
So the best approach as per the syllabus is the top-down approach, and which is used in the industry. Then what is the significance of bottom-up approach? We'll see that. So top-down approach is where I have the top level management,
Mm.
or we can say senior management, who tells what the policies would be, what is my vision, what is my mission. Based on that, then we'll have middle management who will relay these things to the staff, and they will take care that whatever has been conveyed and what we have decided, that is happening or not, is that into operations or not. And these are the people who are the staff, means the engineers we can say, or everybody who is part of the staff, like HR people, or all the people who are working for those operations are the people who come at the bottom. Then we have our managers, middle level management, who make sure that we are doing right what we are told to, and then the top level management.
Mm.
Bottom up approach comes in picture when so senior management cannot indulge themselves in each and everything. Okay, how they will
Mm.
get to know what needs to be corrected? I, as an engineer, I am working with the customer. I get the feedback from them. I know what exact problem they are facing, or what are the challenges in whatever services, support, whatever we are providing or selling to the customer. What is the first-hand feedback that these people who are at the staff level, they get to know. Then they relate to the middle management, and then it goes to the senior management. So the importance of bottom up approach is for gap filling. They fill the gap. If they notice
Right.
something, give their feedback to the middle management, and then it goes up and if anything needs to be corrected. So for gap filling, we have bottom up approach. To run any organization, we have top down approach. Okay. So if as a CISSP person, you have gained the experience, you have the knowledge and you have the experience and you work as a CISO. So you are part of a senior management. When,
Right.
yeah, so you will mostly sit on the senior management and at the middle level management.
Mm.
And as the professional, you will make the security policies, you will part of the policy management, any modification required, any new architecture to be designed for the security. So they will sit at the middle level management and the senior management. Then we have terms called merger,
Mm.
acquisition, and divestiture. What merger is, we have heard this many a times, when two or more organizations, they become one. That is called a merger. From a security
Mm.
point of view, why it is important? Suppose you are part of an organization A, okay? Now, and you are the CISO. Now you are told by the finance head and the CEO that okay, we are planning to buy company B. We both will work together now. As a CISO, make sure that it is a smooth integration from the security perspective.
Mm.
Now you have to see what security practices were there in the organization B. What are their reports and
Mm.
audits say? What devices they were using? So were they in compliance with the government policies or not? Because tomorrow when they are your part, and if they were not doing things right, and let's suppose you get penalized as when they are your part, then it will affect your financial status
Mm.
and your uh, uh,
Yeah.
reputation in the market. So as a
Sure.
CISO, it becomes your responsibility that the merger is smooth and whatever risk, whatever everything you have to take care of. Okay. And if you can imagine, like, let's suppose there are 1000 people working, you will see, okay, what are the domain, what are the emails that they are using, what are their domain names, how they will be migrated, how their entire setup will be migrated into your domain. Let's suppose you work in xyz.com organization and your email address is noor@xyz.com, and there people are
Mm.
using some other domain. How those migrations will happen? What are the risks associated with all those things? So you have to take care. Then acquisition is when one organization buys another organization, requires assessing and assimilating the acquired entity
Mm.
security.
Mm.
We have to check the posture and the risk. Okay.
Right.
Divestiture is when an organization, let's suppose abc.com, sells or spins off some part of their business. Now something, let's suppose there were 1000 people working in an organization, that organization now gets split into two businesses. 800 people will remain in organization A and 200 will be a part of organization B. So that is called divestiture. So all these three situations, whenever happens, as a CISO, what is your role and responsibility and what you need to do, we have to suggest on that. So that is why we need to know these terms. Okay, merger, acquisition, and divestiture. We have to do
Or
that in all the cases. In so if you
okay.
think
Okay.
from divestiture perspective, what risk is there? You will say, okay, what
Mm.
will happen? Only if they are leaving us, let them go. But no, tomorrow there are different. They will be a different organization. What information
Right.
those 200 people are taking with them? Are they exporting any sensitive data? That should be when we are terminating those people, that should be a smooth exit. So all those things, if there is a disgruntled employee, that is let's suppose he was a top level executive person and now he is disgruntled, he is leaving the organization because of xyz reason, the divestiture is happening. So all those things also need
Perfect.
to be make sure. So security, risk management, analysis, and all those things become important in all the three scenarios. What is the reporting model? What should be the reporting model? As you just asked, where do we sit? A CSSP person,
Mm.
where does he sit? So, what should be the ideal reporting model? What do you think? Whom should a CISO report to? So, the CISO generally in some environments, in some organizations, they report to CTO. Somewhere they report to a CFO also. If it is a banking organization,
Mm.
a financial company, they will report to a CFO also.
Mm.
But if a CISO is reporting to a CTO, it is generally seen there will be a clash always. What CISO will suggest, CTO will think from his perspective, and
Mm.
he will say, okay, I do not agree, and there will be roadblocks. So nowadays, companies prefer that CISO is directly reporting to either a CFO or they are reporting to a CEO directly. Because even
Right.
let's suppose as a CISO, I suggest, okay, I think we should buy this particular product. We need this. But CFO says we have budget constraint. Tomorrow something happens because the CFO as a financial person, he does not understand the tech perspective. And tomorrow
Mm.
attack happens and the company loses billions and his stake and reputation is also gone. Then you as a CISO will not say that I asked him, but he did not approve the budget. So that is why it's good that if a CISO reports to a CEO directly. So the reporting model is CISO, CIO, CEO. Okay. But if a
Yeah.
CISO can report to CEO, that is the best approach.
Right.
You can have I mean this is a simple concept, but you could be asked like, okay, this so and so is the company, what do you suggest, whom should the CISO represent in such situation, or what should he do? Okay, accountability versus responsibility. I'm sure you understand this concept, how
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
terms are
Yeah.
important. So as an engineer, it is my responsibility that I implement certain rule, I configure a device, I do this, all the tech stuff. Okay.
Mm.
But who will be answerable if something goes wrong? My lead will be
Yeah.
answerable, or
Mm.
my manager, or my skill level
Manager.
manager, depending on what level of issue has occurred. Okay. Or what level of escalation is. So responsibility and accountability. Accountability is who is answerable, but responsibility, who is responsible. Ultimately, in a nutshell, everybody is responsible. But when we go, as we go further in sets, if we go in a set, if I go into a subset, then the
Mm.
person who is doing the task is responsible, but ultimately everybody is responsible. I can
Mm.
be told that, okay, this was your thing to do and you did it wrong. That's okay. I hear that. But everybody ultimately is impacted, right? So
Yeah.
responsibility lies to everybody. But if 10 people, if 10 people are a part of a team and two make a mistake, it was everybody's responsibility. But your manager will be the one who is going to face the customer and going to bear all the heat. So responsibility
Mm.
lies to everybody, but only one person is accountable. That is
Mm.
why the management jobs are
Mhm.
difficult.
Mm.
Now, RACI chart. RACI. RACI stands for
Mm.
responsible, accountable, consult, and informed. What
Mm.
RACI is, this is a chart that is made and practiced in the InfoSec where they say, okay, this is the person who is responsible
Mm.
for this particular thing. This is the person who is accountable. This is the person whom we have to consult. And whom do we consult? We consult a person who is the subject matter expert of something. If
Mm.
required, we'll go to that person, we'll have the consultation.
Mm.
Inform stand for whatever we are doing, we will inform it to the management, and
Mm.
whatever has been done, whatever was the outcome, we'll pass it on to everybody and the person who should be aware of that information. Let's suppose you must have seen that whenever we make a technical change, we raise a change, and when we do that, we inform the business, right? Okay, we send a change notification where we notify, okay, I'm doing this. This will be the impact. Once it is done, then I'll notify that, okay, I have successfully completed this change, and we'll
Mm.
send an email or notification kind of something, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
informed is
To
an
keep. Mm.
outcome that is
Mm.
passed to everyone. Consult is the person who will be consulted. Let's suppose an engineer is making a change in off hours and the change goes wrong, then who that person will consult? Who will be the on-call person? Who will be accountable
Right.
in case something goes wrong, and who is implementing that? Responsible is the person who is doing that
Responsibility.
particular task.
Mm.
For example, I have it handy for you to show. This is how it looks like. Okay? RACI chart. So senior
Right.
analyst, responsible, project manager informed, head of design informed. So this is how the chart looks like. Okay.
Right. 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 So basically, the management is where the information, sorry,
Yes.
informed is coming to
Yes.
report actually. Okay.
Right. Control framework. It is a logical structure.
Mhm.
The intent for this control framework is to document the process. Whatever we are going to do, we are going to document the press that particular process. Okay. Frameworks are general, flexible. There can be multiple ways. Okay, we can have multiple frameworks, and they are guidelines. Okay, this is what you can do. This is my suggestion. However, standard is specific, like ISO 27001 is a standard that all the organizations follow, and it gives them a confidence for let's suppose if I am ISO 27001 compliant, my client will have confidence in me that okay, they are ISO 27001 certified or whatever ISO certifications are there. I have to
Mhm.
follow that rigorously. So standards are specific, they are rigid, they are one way, and we do not have a choice. However, frameworks are
Mm.
flexible. So that's the layman difference between a standard and a framework.
When you say the frameworks are more of like a procedure document
Yes,
or
yes, I can have my own
and
frameworks. Okay.
right,
Right.
okay.
Then we have timelines. When we talk about these policy standards and procedure, as uh, if I am a CEO of an organization, I cannot keep making and telling the okay, I'm changing the policy every 2 months. That's not possible, and that is not effective also. So my main policies, my strategy, the InfoSec strategy
Mm.
that I will make for 5 years, and I'll review it after 5 years. Okay, all my InfoSec
Mm.
rules. My tactical planning is 3 years. Like I'll say where I'll see where do I stand like in 2.5 or 3 years. Do I need to make any change? I'll just review it. That is a
Mm.
technical planning. I have a security
Right.
operations planning every year where I see, okay, where do I stand after the end of the year for day-to-day operations. And then we can have the internal daily, weekly calls, meetings for operation, whatever you want to do as an ops manager to or as a manager to run your team. But on a high level, when we talk about policies and strategies, I will have InfoSec policy reviewed in 5 years. My tactical planning would be 3 years, and my operations planning would be every year. Now we have a concept of due care and due diligence. You must have heard this term a
Yeah.
lot, due care and due
Mm.
diligence.
Right.
So due care is an action taken by a sensible person, or we say whatever a prudent man will do in a certain situation is a due care. A sensible person in a given situation, what steps he will do is the due care. Okay. It is the
Mm.
activity that we carry in an organization. Whatever I do, due diligence is the validation of it. Okay. To verify, in simple terms, if you just want to explain to somebody and understand yourself also, due diligence is the verification, due care is the steps that we actually do. That is the difference.
Mm.
Due diligence equal to
Right.
verification. If you have a task, let's suppose if you have to pass an exam in a year, it's it is your due care that you pass the exam, but the evidence, the verification would be that you pass the exam at the end. What all your result, your whatever exam it is, your report card is the evidence, is the due diligence which will show whether you pass the exam or you fail the exam. So due diligence is the verification of anything, and due care is the steps that we took for that thing to happen.
Mm.
So due diligence equal to verification or equal to investigation of a business or
Right.
person generally before entering into any contract. I have some examples. Let's suppose get married by age 40. Example is the due care.
Mm.
Now what all steps you do and what was the final outcome for that thing to happen, for that goal to happen is the due diligence. Okay.
Mm. Is it like a pre-step or steps prior to taking or doing an action
Yeah,
or something?
exactly.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
any investigation, any validation, any assessment
Mm.
equal to due diligence. Okay. So, you are the owner of a bakery, customer orders online cake from your shop. You, as owner, ensure that cake reaches on time and does not get spoiled on the way by during the delivery, which specifies the correct answer. Due care,
Yeah,
look
this
at
is
you.
due diligence, right?
Yeah. If I change the scenario and put validate, what would change. So you are the owner of a
Mm.
bakery, customer or is ordering something. You as owner ensure that cake reaches on time and does not get spoiled on the way. during the delivery, which specifies the correct answer. Due diligence is when we are validating.
Verification. Oh,
If I change the scenario and I put the word
oh,
keyword
okay. The
validate,
right
if I put the word validate, verify, or everything, it would be due diligence.
due
What steps?
diligence.
What steps you are doing? You are preparing the cake and
Is
everything.
it
That
due
is
care?
due care.
Right. It's due care. Right.
Okay, I have one more scenario. Which one of the following principle imposes a standard of care upon an individual that is broad and equivalent to what one would expect from a reasonable person under? So I told you a reasonable person or a sensible man, or we say prudent
Yeah.
man rule. Whatever the sensible person will do in a particular situation is due care.
Yeah. Correct. Due care. Correct. Yeah.
As you see in this explanation, the due care
Mm.
principle states that an individual
Mm.
should react in a certain way in a situation and same
Mm.
level of care that would be expected from any reasonable person. Okay. Due care is again, this is just for you because you can expect questions and people get confused in this concept. Due care is about correcting something. This is another way to remember this.
Mm.
So I told you for to remember due diligence equal to verification, validation, verification.
Mm.
If you see those kind of terms, that is due diligence. Another way to remember is DC equal to do correct. Why do correct? What a sensible
Mm.
person would do, he would do the correct things. So this is another
Correct.
way
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
remember that DC equal to do correct, what a sensible person would do. Due diligence takes longer than just fixing something immediately because it is more about investigation, why something happened,
Mm.
validation. Due care is a way, process, steps to implement something. Due diligence is making sure the right thing was done correctly. Was done
Mm.
correctly means you are again verifying something, you are validating something. Due care is doing the right thing. Due diligence is making sure the steps to do right things are correct. Okay, so I hope this
Mhm.
concept is pretty clear to you now.
So the due diligence can be done even before or even to verify the activity, whether we have done it right or not.
It will
Or
be
the
always
due
done
diligence
after, it comes later.
after.
Due care is taking the steps. Once the steps are done, then due diligence comes into the picture. Okay. Due
Right.
diligence,
Okay. So it's always validation.
yeah.
Okay. So due diligence is always validation.
Yeah. So now for your question, whether it comes before or after depends. So
Mm.
let's suppose if I want to buy a firewall which cost, let's suppose 2 CR in Indian rupees. Okay. Will I
Mhm.
buy that firewall and then I will validate? Or will I first do my verification and then I'll buy the firewall?
I'll do the verification first.
Yeah. So verification, validation. So depends what needs to be done at that particular situation.
Mm.
So somewhere in
Right.
certain situations you are doing those things first, then you are implementing the steps, and then you are verifying whether the steps were taken right or not. So whenever we are taking the steps, or let's suppose an engineer is configuring a firewall or a router, the steps that he is taking to configure that device is the due care. Once that is done, he verifies, he validates, he checks, he runs all the commands to make sure he is getting the correct output, is again due diligence.
Mm.
Before
Right.
they purchase that particular firewall, they did all the investigation and analysis, analysis, everything. That is also due diligence. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I think that is enough for due care and due diligence. These slides you can go through. It is the same thing I've explained in different languages and with different
Sure. Sure.
examples. So that will make more sense to you. I have given some examples. Let's just quickly check some examples. Okay. So conducting
Mm.
a penetration testing is due diligence. Implementing the controls, whatever. So you did a PT, okay, and you have
Mm.
certain findings now. You want to fill the gaps, the findings that you found. You want to fill those gaps. Now you have to take certain steps, technical steps or whatever. That is due care. Your
Mm.
conducting your analysis of the penetration testing was the due diligence. Okay.
Right.
Now, another example, if you see installing patches to mitigate the latest CVE, common vulnerability, is the due care.
Mm.
Understanding the reason why the CVE existed and after installing the patch, if we have fixed that gap or not, is the due diligence. Means
Right.
knowing about that thing. And how you
Right.
did that was the due care. So I think we are good now with this concept.
Yeah, I think so. So basically, implementation is more on due care actually. So
Exactly.
whatever the steps we are doing, yeah,
So
okay.
DC equal to do correct equal to implementation.
Yeah.
DD equal to
Hmm.
investigation, analysis, forensics, whatever you want.
Validations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
validation. Ensure answer is due care. Validation, verification, answer is due diligence. So that's a keyword.
Hmm.
If you see
So,
ensure, it is about due care. If you see
yeah.
verification, analysis, validation, compliance. Compliance, as we discussed, it is the act of abiding by something, adherence to an external mandate, not just external mandate, it could be an internal mandate also. But external
Hmm.
mandates are very, very critical and important. You must have seen, especially if let in India, these practices are not that. I mean, people do not uh, care a lot, and we do not have strict
Hmm.
controls. However, the scenario is changing. But since you have already told me you have a background in UK, you must be aware of these things. And we have seen multiple examples where Facebook CEO has been dragged to court. Verizon,
Hmm.
where when they were providing the for the DNS, they were adding their particular they were modifying the DNS queries for advertisement purposes, and they were stealing the information of the people, so they were dragged to court.
Hmm.
So the privacy rules that are there in
Hmm.
certain countries, we need to very strictly abide to those, adhere to those. External mandates is compliance. Okay. Now, these two terms, privacy and secrecy, these are very similar. What do you think? What is the difference between those two terms?
Yeah. Privacy is my data, so keeping it
Yeah, yeah,
private.
yeah,
Secrecy is maybe concealing it, the way how to secure that
yeah.
private data
Yeah.
or something.
Exactly. Privacy,
Uh,
every person, every human being has the right that his information should be private to him only, or however he decides his information should be used or distributed. It depends on that person. It is a right of every human being, okay, to control the manner
mm,
that their data will be used. Secrecy deals with an organization, their file, their data, their trade secret. Means, let's suppose, if I talk about Coca-Cola, their formula to make Coca-Cola is the secret to them, to their organization.
mm,
Privacy
yep,
is the private information of any individual. Now we have certain standards. So far what we have covered are the basic terminologies and what is the
mm,
significance. And now we will roll to the standards. Okay. First regulation and is the GLBA, Gram Leach Bleed Act. Okay. It is a regulation which talks about how to protect financial data of a consumer. So if you will go online and start reading about GLBA or HIPAA or GDPR, you will have a book just on GLB or GDPR itself. Here, our goal is to understand the basic what this regulation is all about and what is the
mm,
primary focus of that regulation. Because at the end, you are not going to work as a GDPR expert. You just need to have an understanding that, okay, as an organization, these are all the regulations that at least I should be aware of and we have to follow. When there a situation arises where you have to deep dive into a particular scenario, then you can build on that knowledge. But for now, we need to have a basic understanding what these regulations are and what they stand for. So Graham Leach
right,
Bleely Act is GLBA equal to, you have to remember how to protect financial data of a consumer. Any question says consumer financial data or consumer financial record is GLBA. Means if I am a consumer on any particular company, let's suppose I'm buying something on Amazon or from wherever, what I am consumer to any XYZ thing,
mm,
how my financial data is used, my financial data should be preserved. That comes under GLBA. Financial data of preserving the financial data of a consumer. That is GLBA. Okay. What is the difference between a standard and a regulation? Standard is a benchmark. Regulation, as I told you, they are mandatory, like
mm,
HIPAA or GDPR. They are mandates. We have to follow them.
mm,
Standard is a
right,
benchmark. Okay, this is the standard in the market. For a very small example, what is this standard pay? for this particular role in organization. Let's suppose if I talk
Mm.
about Google, what Google is paying to
Mm.
this level of engineer with this level of expertise, and what their competitor is paying. So that's a standard in the market. That's a benchmark.
Right.
Regulation are the
Right.
rules. Okay, I mean they are laws that are made by the government that we need to follow anyhow. Then we have SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which was there in
Mm.
2002, which came into the picture in 2002 in US, which protects against accounting fraud to protect investors. Okay, if my
Right.
company is to be listed in markets, let's suppose I am the owner of XYZ organization. It's a huge organization earning millions and billions. Now I have investors also who are investing in my organization. How will my investors be protected against any fraud that I can commit to them? If I promise my investor that okay, this much return I'll give you, but I do not do that. So how their money will be protected? So for that we have Sarbanes-Oxley Act, where protecting against accounting fraud to protect the investors.
Mm.
As a
Right.
company, I have to be SOX compliant. To be listed in the market, I have to be SOX compliant, like the stock exchange and all where we list our company,
Mm.
where we go public. So before that, for that, we have to SOX compliant in US. If we are not, we cannot list our company. And who are the investors? Even a person who is buying a stock in my organization is an investor in my organization. So for all those people, we have this SOX Act. Okay. Then we have PCI DSS. It is not a regulation, it is a standard. Okay. But it is
Mm.
a very popular and important standard. And the companies who are involved into this, they are reputed big organization. That is why government is not coming. Okay, they haven't come so far because they know okay the this is being followed correctly. But if needed, I mean for any particular organization, if government wants, they can even become part of it. But as of now, PCI DS is a standard, there is not a regulation, but it is important.
Mm.
Full form is Payment Card Industry Data Security Norms.
No.
So it talks about security stats. So do you have any idea about PCI DSS? So and in outside countries, this credit card is,
Mm.
I mean, used more than what it is used in India. So for that, PCI DSS is a standard where it talks about security standards formed in 2004 by certain finance giants like Visa, Mastercard, American Express, governed by PCI SSC. Okay, Payment Card
Mm.
Industry Security Standard Council. That's the council who is governing how
Mm.
PCIDS is
Right.
functioning. What
Right.
we are aiming to secure, if I am ordering something online, if I'm putting my debit card and credit card information, I'm paying, how my credit card information is used and how I'm protected against any theft and fraud. That is comes under PCIDSS.
Right.
For example, it deals with confidentiality, not integrity. PCI-DSS strictly says CVV data cannot be stored. The organization, let's suppose I have a credit card from ICICI Bank or Axis Bank or
Okay.
American Express credit card I'm using. They cannot store my CVV information. Then we have HIPAA. It is a regulation. Okay. So only standard that we have studied so far is PCI DSS. These
Okay.
were regulations. Now another regulation
Regulation.
is HIPAA. It is one of the most important regulation. We will cover there because it is important, and IP. So HIPAA requires data integrity and privacy for health related information. Organizations that must comply with HIPAA requirements are known as covered entities. So few terms that you will hear here, I'll just highlight them so that you do not get confused. So we are studying about HIPAA here, which is related to health. Okay, requires data integrity. The focus is on integrity and privacy for health related information. All the organizations that must comply with HIPAA requirements are known as covered
Right.
entities. Okay, so the term is CE, covered entity. Not all the organizations in the world needs to be HIPAA regulant, right? Only who are in this
Mm.
particular field, they needs to be HIPAA following the HIPAA regulation. So organizations that must comply with HIPAA requirements, they are the covered entities and fit
mm,
into these categories. Who are those companies? Who are the covered entities?
mm.
Health plans, the companies
Well,
that provide health plans, healthcare providers, the hospitals, the insurance companies who provide the health plans, the healthcare clearing houses. So, you know what is a
mm,
covered entity now? All these organizations which deal with health related data are the covered entity.
well, okay.
Now we have a term called BAA. Okay. BAA is a legal contract or return agreement signed between a covered entity and the business. Okay. So when a healthcare provider, for example, they want to outsource the data, they have to sign the BA. It is the requirement.
Mm,
So you BA, first of all, we have to understand that. So one term that was new here is covered entity, the other is
yeah.
BAA. Okay,
Mm,
business associate agreement. When it is not written here, but I am writing so
mm,
that you see the video. Business
right. Mm,
associate agreement.
mm,
When this is signed and who signs it? First of all, it is a legal contract signed
mm,
between a covered entity, these organizations,
yeah.
and
Mhm,
the business. Let's suppose a healthcare provider wants to outsource. So I am a healthcare provider. Let's suppose I am a
mhm,
hospital Max. Okay. Let's suppose
mhm,
I run the chain of 20 hospitals under Max Hospital. Now I
mm,
want to outsource my data to Amazon Cloud. Okay, I will keep all my data on the Amazon
mm,
Cloud. To do
mm.
that, I have to sign a BA. It's a legal
Sorry.
contract signed between my company, the healthcare provider, and Amazon. Okay, this is
Right.
the requirement of HIPAA. If you see any
Mm,
question talking about
mm,
healthcare data, it is
mm,
about HIPAA.
mm,
If you talk about protecting financial consumer data, if you see anything about investors, it is SOX, it is GLBA, it is HIPAA. If you see anything about credit, debit card information, financial data, storage,
sorry.
it is PCI-DSS. Okay. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Okay, I'll just mention it here. One concept that we'll cover today is IP, intellectual property. So you, by the word intellect, you would know what who is a who is an intellectual person
Mm,
or what is the
mm,
meaning of intellect, right? It is
mm,
something related to mind, your sharpness, your intelligence, how intellectual you are.
mm,
So what is intellectual property now? If I, as a scientist, if I am discovering something, if I am making a formula, or I, as a company, if I discover something that is, and I want to make money out of that, how would I keep that information secret? All those things comes under intellectual property, means protecting a product of a mind. Whatever has is unique to me, what I have made or discovered by my mind. Now the product that came from my idea, my mind, I have to protect that. That is intellectual property, protecting products of mine. We have copyright,
mm. Copyright. Okay.
trade secret, trademark, and patent. What
Mm,
is all this?
mm,
Copyright comes in the scenarios you must have seen on books and movies also. And whenever you read any author book, we see copyright belongs to this person. Okay.
yeah.
So in the scenario here, we have books, authors, movies, who is the director, who has written the story, who has
Mm,
all those rights, source code. This keyword, it
mm,
is talking about copyright. In copyright, we protect expression of idea rather than the idea itself. Means, if I have a, let's suppose, uh, there is a song, okay, I make a song and I give certain music to it, or I write a book and I write it in a certain language or on a theme or on certain lines. Now another
mm,
person comes and he just make one slight change and
mm,
or changes one beat and keeps the entire thing same, and so that is also wrong. So here, along with the idea, I am protecting the expression of idea, how that particular thing is expressed, written, that is also protected. That is copyright.
mm,
It ensures work that is authored is protected from reproduction or used or is not used without the consent of original author. We
mm,
register copyright so that it can go public. Before I write a book and I want to make it public, I will register it. I'll purchase the copyright for it. that exclusively says I have the right on this particular thing. Okay, nobody else can sell it on my name.
Right.
Trade secret are never registered. Copyrights, remember, we register the copyright before we make our thing public. Why we do not register a trade secret? Can you think the reason? Yeah, because
So
if
more sensitive data or something.
exactly, if I register and if I make my trade secret public, then my
Mm.
company will be locked from tomorrow. I'll not make any money. So that is
Right.
why we do not register
Mm.
trade secret. We ensure with all the internal security things and everything that my trade secret remains with me, does not go out. It is internal to an organization. I will not share my recipe how I make money.
Mm.
Trademark is related to color, sound, symbol, protecting the word, name, shape, protect the goodwill. Example, if you see Nike, Jordan, Puma, or any other
Mm.
popular organization, they have a symbol and that is very important to them. Tomorrow, if I purchase a shirt or a t-shirt of 200 rupees from a wholesale market and I put the sticker on it and I sell it for 2000,
Mm.
Nike will go
Mm.
in loss, right?
Mm.
Because they are
Yeah.
putting 1000 rupees and then selling it for 2000. I just buy a simple duplicate t-shirt for 2 rupees, put their logo, sell it. They will go in loss. So that is why these trademarks are so important. In the second hand market, you will see for Puma, they will change you and they will just tweak something.
Yeah.
They'll sell it. That is allowed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adidas, they will make
Mm.
Adidas,
Mm.
but they
Mm.
cannot entirely use it. Okay. So the goodwill, the sound, the shape, all those things, the color, that is to that organization. They register it. Okay. Trademark approval takes time. Okay. Whenever you register your trademark, it takes time to get assigned to you up to a year also.
Mhm.
Once we get the approval, we use the word R. Okay. So that is, this is to me. Patent
Right.
is the strongest form of IP protection. So when we talk about intellectual property, the strongest form of protection is patent. Okay. You get
Right.
a patent for 20 years. If I invent something, I will always take a patent for it. So there are so many, if you will research, there are so many companies. I think Gillette is one example where they made their blades or to razor, I think. No, and they made money for 20 years because that was the patent to them only. Nobody else can do it. After 20 years, anybody else can start doing it, but till 20 years only you can do the business with that particular thing. Or if you discover, if you're making an automobile product, you use certain technology, let's suppose you are Honda and you find out the way where your car can run using hydrogen, you
Mm.
will have the patent for it till 20 years and you will make money. After 20 years it can go public and people other can start using it. So patent is the strongest form of IP protection. If you invent something, you take a patent. It is, and if you have invented something revolutionary, you will take the patent and you will make money with it for 20 years. Okay. World
Mm.
Intellectual Property Organization, GTM stands for Global Trade Market. This all these intellectual properties are managed by WIPO. GTM stands for Global Trade Market. Design is always registered is in a company. It is not applicable globally. By this we means design is specific to a company. You see, let's suppose Jaguar has a design in US. I can make a car of the same design under some other name. Let's suppose Mahindra or whatever XYZ. I can use the
Mhm.
design of their car, how it looks. They cannot say that you have the design is same, you cannot do that. I can do that. I cannot use their formula, how they are making the engine or how they are running their car on hydrogen or what
Mm.
ethanol or
Mm.
etc. But I can copy the design. That is not global, okay? That is just for that particular company. So have you understood the copyright where in which scenarios copyright
Mm.
come into the
Mm.
picture where trade
Yeah,
secret,
yeah. No, these
trademark and
four are
patent.
okay. Yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, this WIPO, are they
Mhm.
like
They are
um
the one who
who
gives you
maintain
the
everything? Oh,
copyright.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
Ah, okay, okay.